The underwater graveyard, Bikini Atoll. Unlike the Danakil Depression where nature itself creates toxic barriers, Bikini Atoll represents a paradise deliberately poisoned by human hands. In 1946, the pristine waters and lush vegetation of this remote Marshall Islands location became ground zero for America's nuclear ambitions, a testing program that would forever transform both the landscape and the lives of those who called it home. From 1946 to 1958, the United States military conducted a series of 23 nuclear tests at Bikini Atoll, creating an environmental catastrophe that continues to resonate decades later. What makes this restriction zone particularly haunting is the contrast between its surface beauty and hidden danger. From above, satellite imagery reveals a picture-perfect tropical paradise, crystal blue waters surrounding a ring of islands that form a natural lagoon. Yet beneath this serene veneer lies a disturbing reality. The testing program began shortly after World War II as part of America's nuclear weapons development. Military officials selected this remote location specifically because of its isolation and distance from major population centers. The indigenous Bikinians were told their sacrifice would be temporary, just long enough for tests that would benefit all mankind. That temporary displacement has now lasted over 75 years. The Castle Bravo detonation in 1954 stands as the most catastrophic event. This hydrogen bomb produced a yield of 15 megatons, the most powerful nuclear explosion ever conducted by the United States. The blast vaporized entire islands, created a mushroom cloud visible from over 250 miles away, and left a crater in the lagoon floor still visible in satellite imagery today. Environmental consequences were immediate and severe. Radioactive fallout spread far beyond the expected containment zone, contaminating nearby atolls and exposing inhabitants to dangerous radiation levels. The explosion created a 2-kilometer-wide crater that fundamentally altered the underwater topography of the atoll. What distinguishes Bikini Atoll among restricted zones is what military planners deliberately placed in harm's way. Before these detonations, the United States assembled a fleet of decommissioned warships in the lagoon, vessels that had survived actual combat only to be sacrificed as test subjects. These included the USS Saratoga, a World War II aircraft carrier, and the Japanese battleship Nagato, former flagship of the Imperial Japanese Navy. These ships now form an underwater graveyard where destruction and beauty converge. Marine life has reclaimed these metal structures, transforming weapons of war into artificial reefs teeming with coral and fish. They stand as silent monuments to both military power and environmental recklessness, their rusting hulls still containing radiation that scientists continue to monitor. For the Bikinian people, the legacy extends far beyond environmental damage. Their forced relocation fractured community bonds, disrupted traditional practices, and created generations of displacement. Despite compensation efforts by the United States government, no amount of money can fully address what was lost: a homeland, a way of life, and the security of knowing your children could inherit ancestral lands. The indigenous population of Bikini Atoll, the Bikinians, were forcibly relocated from their ancestral home to make way for the nuclear testing program. This displacement, which began in 1946, has had a devastating impact on their culture, health, and way of life. Even now, the prospect of return remains elusive. Environmental assessments consistently show radiation levels in the soil remain too high for permanent habitation. The contamination pattern tells a complex story. While the ocean waters have largely recovered, the land areas, particularly those closest to the detonation sites, remain highly contaminated. Marine life has rebounded while terrestrial ecosystems remain compromised. Plants grown in the atoll soil still absorb dangerous levels of radioactive isotopes, making locally grown food unsafe for consumption. Scientists conducting ongoing monitoring face a situation unlike almost any other on Earth. Here, the contamination was deliberately created, carefully documented, and continues to be studied as both environmental disaster and scientific opportunity. The atoll serves as a living laboratory for understanding how ecosystems respond to radiation exposure over decades. The restriction zone created by these tests operates differently than many others. No armed guards patrol its perimeter. No motion sensors trigger alarms when trespassers approach. The barrier is invisible. Microscopic particles embedded in soil and plant life that pose long-term health risks through radiation exposure. This danger creates a de facto exclusion zone maintained primarily by scientific consensus rather than physical enforcement. Despite these dangers, Bikini Atoll supports a limited form of tourism. Tourism to Bikini Atoll is strictly limited and highly regulated due to the lingering radiation hazards. Specialized diving expeditions are available for those wishing to explore the shipwrecks, but these trips operate under stringent safety protocols. Divers must follow strict guidelines with time limits restricting how long they can remain in certain areas. These precautions create a rare opportunity to witness firsthand the consequences of nuclear testing. Modern satellite technology reveals aspects invisible to the human eye on the surface. Advanced imaging can detect the ghostly outlines of sunken warships and the massive crater left by Castle Bravo. These observations track changes over time, allowing scientists to monitor coral growth around vessels, document erosion patterns, and assess radiation's impact on vegetation without requiring continuous human presence in potentially dangerous areas. The abandoned military installations, concrete bunkers, instrumentation sites, and observation posts stand as silent witnesses to decisions that rendered this paradise uninhabitable for generations. Their presence in satellite imagery connects the technical aspects of monitoring with the human story of displacement and loss. The story of Bikini Atoll forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about scientific progress, military necessity, and environmental ethics. When does advancement justify displacement? Who bears the costs of national security? How do we balance short-term objectives against long-term consequences? The answers remain as murky as the waters surrounding those sunken warships. From our vantage point through high-definition satellite imagery, we witness these forbidden places with unprecedented clarity. Yet this technological window doesn't diminish their inaccessibility. Instead, it underscores why boundaries matter. Behind every restriction lies something we value enough to protect: scientific knowledge, ecological balance, cultural autonomy, or human safety. These invisible lines etched across our planet represent humanity's collective wisdom. They remind us that some places serve a greater purpose untouched by human interference. As technological capabilities expand, the existence of these protected zones prompts us to reflect. What responsibility do we bear as stewards of Earth's most fragile and forbidden spaces?